What's going on, guys? It's your guy, Hustle Hob. I'm here with Burton from PropStream. Now, in this video, guys, Burton's actually going to show you guys how to not really trip over your same mistakes as far as just what I did when I first started out with PropStream. He's going to show you how to generate real estate leads, find motivated sellers, run comps, order comps, and what have you. So if anything sounds foreign, don't worry about it. Everything will be fully explained thoroughly through Burton. Let's do it. Burton,
Let's do it, man. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here. And guys, I hope you're watching here. I've actually took the time to break it down as easy as possible. So hopefully by the end of this, you're like, I get it. And then now we're just off to finding leads. So thanks, Yahavy, for giving us the time. But let me go ahead and just jump into it. This is PropStream here. When you log in, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to capture your IP address and zoom in on your market. So I'm in Southern California, but the cool thing with PropStream is we've been collecting data nationwide for 15 years. So you can actually search nationwide. So it's not just, Southern California. You can search Miami, you can search Washington, Montana, New York. Sky's the limit here. Now, when you do log in, I first want to expose you to getting familiar with the toolbar, right? From searching to where your properties that are saved are being stored, to where we store your skip tracing results, to the ability to skip trace, to the ability to run campaigns in our system. We have a help page, which gives you video tutorials and email support, live chat, our customer support phone number. And then you have your settings, which you can add new features that we just released, apply your billing information for in-app purchases, and then you can log out. I want to get you familiar with that first because you will be jumping back and forth quite a bit in our toolbar. Now, before I go further into this, I actually, again, did some homework for you guys, and I created this document. It's just my mental state of how PropStream should be effectively approached, right? So there are two stages to PropStream, and stages can be swapped around, right? It's like the whole thing, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? No one really knows. It's no different than, should I buy a buyer's list first or build a seller's list first? In our system, we have the same thing. Do you do stage one first or stage two? It doesn't really matter. But in my book, stage one is lead generation. I don't have any leads. I need to use PropStream to generate leads. And so stage one is what most people are going to use PropStream for. And in stage one, lead generation, there are 4 phases. Phase 1 is build a list. Phase 2 is to skip trace. And then phase 3 is marketing. Essentially, send that list that you just built and got contact information, a postcard, a voicemail, and an email. Now, that is all of stage 1. If you do that correctly, it should hopefully lead to stage 2, which is someone's going to make contact with you. And in stage 2, we have the ability to analyze an individual property. So if someone calls you and says, hey, I got your postcard, I want to sell my house, you can now search their address, or you can go to your My Properties, click on the list that they were on, click on their address. And within PropStream, we're going to give you all the details that we've collected so you can find opportunities, whether that's how old the property is, maybe the location of the owner, or the debt to loan ratio and stuff like that. But most importantly, we're going to give you the ability to run comps on that property to get an after repair value, right? You want to know your numbers. If your goal is to get a property under 60%, well, what's the max threshold, right? What's your 100% number in order to determine what 60% is? And that's what running comps is to get that after repair value. So you now know, what the percentage of a discount you need to get it at. You can then print out those comps. And that is stage 2. Hopefully after that, your negotiation, contracts are signed, and we go to the title company for wholesaling, right? So guys, this is the 2-stage process. I hope you guys are writing this down as you're watching this, but let's go ahead and dive into it. Okay, so let's start with stage 1. So I'm in PropStream. Yahavy, do you want to throw me out a city or a county I can use?
Perfect. Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, New York. How do you spell that, man?
Poughkeepsie. New York.
New York. Okay, there it is. Or Arkansas, right? No. Wow.
No, New York. There we go.
So when I search this city, it tells me, Burton, we have 25,000 public records that we've captured for you. We broke that down into the MLS, the pre-foreclosures, the auctions, and the 14 categories that we have. Now we have 8 here in the search page, and the remaining 6 are in our drop-down menu in the filter. So this is stage one, phase one, right? So we go back to phase one, this is searching. Now you can search a city, a county, a zip code. You can even use our draw search feature on the map. Now, part two of phase one is after you search your city, you're going to want to go to the filter and essentially apply your filter. We don't know what it is that you're looking for. Are you looking for liens? Are you looking for pre-foreclosure? So as you're essentially choosing the problem that you're trying to solve, it's going to narrow down your results. So if I'm a wholesaler, I need to have at least 60% in equity or more. I would love for it to be off market. And then now I need a motivation, right? And that motivation could be a lien, it could be a pre-foreclosure. And so here, in just a few clicks, I've created 111 possibilities that fit my criteria. Off market, it has 60% in equity or more, and the motivation is that they're in pre-foreclosure facing an auction date. And so another graph that I've created for you guys, and that was part two. Part three would essentially be able to check off your results and then add it to a marketing list. I can call this the PK New York pre-foreclosures. And then when I hit save, it's going to go into my properties. And that is all of phase one, because once it's in my properties, I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to export that list. Now, the reason why we call it phase one is some of you guys are going to skip trace with other market or providers. Some of you guys are going to use other marketing elements outside of our system. So that's why I call it phase one. So if you're just here for the data, then that's just phase one. You search, you build your list, you go look for your Pepsi list here. So there it is. We're going to check that off, and we're going to hit export. Phase one, right? Now, let's say I need contact information. Then what we're going to do is we're not going to export. We're going to go straight to phase two, which is to click on skip tracing and choose the list. So here I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and choose my PK New York pre-foreclosures. Then I'm going to go ahead and add them, hit done, and I get to choose what items I want. And so after I make that selection, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. It's going to tell me my price. I'm going to place my order, and within about 5-10 minutes, when I go to the contacts page where your skip tracing results are stored, your list is going to look just like this. It's going to have the names of the owners that you just built on that filtered list, plus their phone numbers and fax numbers. And at this point now, I can check off the results and export that. And that is phase two, right? Because again, you guys have, maybe you do your own postcard, you prefer cold calling, or maybe you have a different marketing provider. Now, maybe you don't have any of that. And so you need to use our system to market. And if that's the case, then you don't export. So you don't export in phase one, you don't export in phase two. Once you get your contact information, you go into phase three, which is marketing. So once I get my list of contact information, I now go into campaigns and I start a new campaign. I say, okay, you know what? I want to call this the PK New York pre-foreclosure campaign. Choose my list that I either built that wasn't skip trace, or a list that was skip trace in the skip trace section here. And then after I name it and choose my list and I start my campaign by saving it, this is what a campaign looks like. It's going to give you a landing page. It's a free landing page. It's solely designed for this marketing list, no other marketing list. That way we're not recycling the same website over and over, right? Like in my scenario here, I have 94 campaigns, and each campaign gets its own website. And every website addresses those individuals that are on that campaign only. So this campaign could be for tax liens. So my landing page will refer to some service I can do to help them with their liens. I have campaigns that are for buyers. So some of them will say, hey, I have a property with a great ARV. Hey, buyer's contract 35K, ARV 75K, right? So that was the idea. Anytime you create a campaign, we give you a free website for that audience. Once you've published that website, now it's the matter of what marketing element am I going to use for these 2 individuals, or for these 18 individuals, or however many people are in your campaign list. And Once you make that selection, you have the option of choosing postcards. You can upload your own design. You can even create your own from scratch, or you can choose from our several dozen predefined templates for you. So several templates you can choose from. In this case, all I have to do is just choose one and then hit print and mail. Make sure I save the design if I want to, and then just check off, make sure everything looks good. And when I hit place order, my postcards are sent directly to the mailing address. We don't send them to you. We send them directly to everyone that's on your list. So that's the first one, send postcards, right? So maybe 2-3 days later or 2 weeks go by. The next thing I want to do is I'll start a new activity and send another round of postcards. Or maybe this time I'll do voicemails. Or maybe this time I'll do emails. So this is the 3 phases of lead generation, which I call stage 1. Now, if we do all of that, search, build a filter, save the list, skip trace it, get contact information, and then market to it, it should hopefully, and I'm almost quite certain, it's going to lead into stage 2, right? So stage 2 is someone's going to call back, hey, Burton, I got your ringless voicemail. Hey, Burton, I got your postcard. I am interested in selling my property. What can you do for me? Right? So maybe I got that voicemail, or maybe they left that on my landing page, or maybe I'm talking to the owner over the phone as we speak. And so what I'm going to do is do one of 2 things. I'm going to go to the search page. I'm going to ask them for that address so I can type it in and then look up that address. Or I already have that address. I'll just go into my properties, find the list that I marketed to, and then click on that property that was in that list. And now this is, again, phase 2 of stage 2. So if stage 2, first part is to search the address, then second part is to find these opportunities. Now, most of the opportunities already match your filter. Like you asked for it to be in pre-foreclosure, you asked for it to have 60% or more in equity, great. So really the thing that I need to do is, what is the balance owed, right? Approximately, right? Now, if I have the owner on the line, I'm probably going to ask for the actual number. PropStream gives you a theoretical calculation based on the records that we've captured, in this case in 2011. Right, got a loan for 83,000, and then they making payments on that. So you're able to see things like that, transaction history, like they paid for in cash, and so forth. But as you can see here, property has a notice of less pendants on it. So as I'm talking to owner and seeing where the pain point is, seeing if they're interested in selling, at the end of the day, what we really need to know is, what is this property going to sell for? And so here in our comparables, you're going to be able to use public records and MLS, or both. Now you can see this is kind of like a very open area. So in a half-mile radius, we didn't really get too many results. I'm going to go ahead and extend that to like a mile. And now you can see that we have some public records that we can use. We have one that's sold for $195, another one sold for $118,500. Now, the cool thing about the public records is that it's going to show both on and off market transactions. So this green one that you see on number 2 is actually a cash record. Now that's a good thing, because I get to see who the buyer is now that bought that property, right? So while I'm in the comps, I just found myself a buyer, right? There's an LLC buying up properties in cash in this neighborhood. But at the same time, if we're really trying to run comps, that's not good for me, right? Because it's actually dragging the value down, right? That's a discounted purchase. And I'm trying to find something that was purchased at full price. So here's a property that has a 2-1. And when I click on it, I get to now compare. Hopefully I walked the property, or I had the owner send me photos. But this is letting me know a 2-1 that was in this condition sold for this dollar amount, $195, in this market on November 20th. Now that's just public records. So public records is cool because you're going to see things that are on market and off market sales. Now, if you're trying to run an ARV on public records, I would probably consider using financed. Essentially, you're going to want to look at everything similar to the subject property that sold that top dollar. But the cool thing is we have access to the MLS too. So with the MLS, you're able to see things that the county may not have recorded just yet. So here in a 1-mile radius, we have a few other ones that the first photo didn't have, right? So we have one on November 20th, one in September, and those were not any of these right here. So here I'm able to see these 2 properties, and again, we can see photos. and make sure, hey, was this property in rehabable condition when it sold? Yeah, it looks like it was at least, in pretty good condition for it to sell to 200. So now we have these two options here. We're going to select them, and that is what our theoretical after repair value is. Now, again, these are some large areas. I'm not familiar with this market, so we might have needed to go 2 miles instead, because every property seems to be having very large lots here, right? So in this reality, we might need to go 2 miles instead. Now, the cool thing is you can use public records or MLS to see what agents have sold properties for, or use a collection of both. So in this case, I'm going to use both, and now it's a matter of apples to apples. So this property we're staring at is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, and it is a single family resident. First off, I want all finance records, and then single family residence. So, challenge here is we are missing some characteristics here. So I might need to go 3 more miles, and yep, residential, single family. So you guys see the point here. Again, very rural area. This may happen. You might find a property sitting on the outskirts of the area, doesn't have enough comps. So increase the distance. You can even increase the time frame. So maybe you need to go back a year and a half, right? Because population is low. It's not like California where there's a property being sold every 15 minutes, right? So every property within our system has the luxury for you to identify these opportunities. And then at the end of the day, you're going to want to go to the comparables and use these comps to find these after repair valued costs, right? So again, we usually encourage you to use both unless you're in a non-disclosure state. So once you isolate your comps to 1.5, again, I'm just following the characteristics that we have up here. Here are my 39 results. What I would recommend is look for any anomalies. See, there are some 4 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. So to remove that, I can max out and say, hey, I want 2 minimum, 2 max. So don't show me anything above 2. And then here are my results. So it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. Now, finally, once you are confident these are the comps that you want, all you have to do now is hit actions and then view comps report. And we're going to spit out a PDF file that you can now take with you to use for your sellers and or for your buyers. And so this is the second stage of PropStream. This is, again, someone calls you, or maybe you are signing up for PropStream because you need a platform to run comps on, right? So that's why I said at the beginning, stage 1 and stage 2 can be mixed and matched. Some people come into PropStream without any leads, so they go straight into lead generation. And some people come into PropStream with a property already, in question, and so they just need to get this report. Subject property, its details, your comps criteria, the low, the high, the average, all the selections that are on here from the MLS that you use to the public records. And then we show you a summary. Here's that property that sold on the MLS. Here's the amount. Second one, the amount. Third one, the amount, all the way down until every single comp that you selected is represented. Now, once we do that, after every comp that you select is represented in a summary, we're also going to show you the photos of every property that you represent. So it's more of a like, all right, cool. Like, because again, you're trying to, I wouldn't say convince, but you're trying to encourage someone to wire a lot of money to you because you found a property at a great discount, right? And you're trying to convince them, hey, this property that I have on contract could make you 50, make you 60, make you over $100,000 in return. Now, in order for them to be willing to give you such a large amount of money, I mean, this is what they're going to want to see. Like, what does it take if I'm going to buy a property for you, for $80,000, and you're telling me all I need to do is put 20 into it, and then, it's going to look like this. And so if I spend $100,000, then I'm able to sell that property for $175,000 based on all these photos right here that I'm showing you, right? And so number 9 is a perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Like, what what contracts do I want to, do I sign, or what title companies are we using, right? So this is our comps report. So if you do stage 1 and stage 2 effectively, then it's just deals are coming your way. Now, in terms of lead generation, let me put an asterisk on that. I will share with you guys something I built to hopefully share with you, like, just the mindset that I have, that our system is fully capable of doing. I shared this motivation graph. It's the homeowner motivation graph, I call it. And it shows you the level of motivation from low to high. And in order for it to go high, there needs to be motivation. So I broken it down to, there are 3 stages a homeowner goes into: good, uh-oh, and I need help, right? And everybody starts off good. And we have some categories for you that are good in our system, like the cash buyers, the flippers, high equity, and free and clear. Now, something happens, and I know you guys are like, no, Burton, high equity and free and clear are leads. There should be motivation there. And you're right, there is. A lot of people don't realize those, that they're just adding an added feature, or like a motivation to it. Like, for example, high equity that are vacant, right? Free and clear that are tired landlords, or high equity that have a tax lien. And that's the uh-oh, right? So any homeowner that's not answering their mail, has a lien, has filed for bankruptcy, has a tenant who's not taking care of their property, that's the uh-oh. The reason why I call it uh-oh is because the homeowner has 2 options here. We take care of it, we go back to good. We don't take care of it, we may end up in the pre-foreclosure category. So in reality, a homeowner will go through these 3 stages, and you need to identify that. And our system is great at doing that. So if I knew this and I want to get the homeowners that absolutely want to sell their house, then I'm going to look for the need help category. And in PropStream, I can do just that. I can go to an area, and like you saw me do earlier, look for pre-foreclosures that are off market, 50% in equity, right? But here's the cool thing with PropStream: we can increase the level of motivation by, it's called list stacking. You guys have heard it before, right? How do you get out of a pre-foreclosure? You got to pay your debt, right? Well, how do you pay your debt? You got to pay it. But what if you have a pre-foreclosure with a bankruptcy, right? So I have now properties that are much more motivated than all the other pre-foreclosures, right? So if there's 259 pre-foreclosures in general, there are 10 that probably need to be called first because there's a pre-foreclosure and a bankruptcy. So we went from, if you're just in pre-foreclosure, right, but you're the 10 that are in the higher level of motivation, pre-foreclosure with the bankruptcy. So these guys probably will end up wanting to sell their house within 1 or 5 follow-ups, perhaps, right? So I'm increasing my ratio that less follow-up needs to be done, and that the homeowner is really, really, really motivated. But the reality is, when you're dealing with these high-level motivated category, and if I'm showing this, you're like, oh, that's amazing, I didn't know you could do that. People are already doing this, right? So the challenge when you're dealing with pre-foreclosures is that it's very competitive. You'll get big discounts, faster closing, but it's very competitive. Don't stop doing it, do it, but just understand that there's a level of competitiveness in this category. So there is another term that we use in PropStream that I love. It's called list suppression. Remember, no one just shows up in pre-foreclosure, right? So something happens before they go into pre-foreclosure. And if you understand that, we can take advantage of that. So in PropStream, let's say this area is very competitive in pre-foreclosure, right? Yahavy's there. So what I need to do is I need to stay away from him. So I'm going to go into that same city. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to say off market, 50% in equity, just like before. But this time, the property is not in pre-foreclosure. So there are abilities in our filters to suppress categories. So I want a property that's off market, not in pre-foreclosure, has 50% in equity, and has a lien, right? And again, how do you get out of a lien? You got to pay for it. So what if that lien was also accompanied with a bankruptcy? So we have 17 properties that have a lien and a bankruptcy. So they would be in this area, right? Lien and bankruptcy, 2 pain points, but they're not in pre-foreclosure yet. So while Yahavy is waiting for pre-foreclosure records, I'm over here talking to people heading there, right? So I'm ahead of the curve. Now, the challenge, the reality is, remember, the level of motivation isn't as high, right? So where Yahavy's may be able to close deals in 1 to 5 phone calls, I might have to take 6 months because the homeowners are either in denial or they think they can figure it out themselves. And that's fine, it's fair enough. But I know the reality is, if you don't, you're going to head into pre-foreclosure, right? And all I'm about transparency. I'm all about being, building rapport. And this is why you're going to hear people, Yahavy tell you, and everybody tell you that, the money's in follow-up. Really is. 60% of your deals are all because of follow-up. And so knowing that properties don't just show up in pre-foreclosure, I can suppress this category, find 2 pain points here, and start here. Build contact. I'm going to get cussed out on the first phone call. That's fine. 30 days later, they're probably still going to be cussed out or a little annoyed that I'm still calling. 30 days later, their reality is starting to set in, right? More notices of past dues are starting to come in. Maybe they weren't able to get that job, or the interview didn't go well, right? And so now they're starting to stress. Hey, now they know my caller ID. Maybe they know my name when I call them, right? Fourth, fifth, sixth follow-up, right? Here is when it's really boiling over. Owners like, wow, the lenders aren't stopping. They really want to put my house up for auction. Burton, let's go ahead and, talk, come by, right? So hopefully I'm able to lock up a contract here. Now, great. I just solved, that's what we do. We solve problems. So I just solved the homeowner's problem and prevented them from going into pre-foreclosure. So if Yahavy is waiting for pre-foreclosure records, he's never going to find that owner because I took care of it beforehand. Now, reality, right? Let's be transparent here. What if it does go into pre-foreclosure? Like, what happens if the homeowner ignores me and all of a sudden it decides to go into pre-foreclosure? Because that's going to happen. And guess what, guys? That's fine. Because when it goes into pre-foreclosure, all of a sudden, everybody's going to start calling them, right? Yahavy and these other investors are going to start. Their intentions are as good as mine, right? Not saying that they're bad. Their intentions are as good as mine. But from the homeowner standpoint, they're going to be bombarded all of a sudden. Whereas they were probably getting 5-10 phone calls a month here, they're going to be getting like hundreds of phone calls now. And so if that ever happened, if I followed up for 6 months and they still ignore me and they go into pre-foreclosure, all of a sudden these people are going to start calling them. And so when I do my follow-up, who do you think stands out like a sore thumb, right? I do. They're going to know maybe they even saved my name along the way, right? Or when they go into pre-foreclosure and everyone's starting to call them, they're like, hey, why don't we call Burton? He's the one that was, warning us about this many, many months ago, right? So list suppression, guys, is as important as list stacking. Reality is the motivation isn't as high. So just be patient, okay? And then the last thing I'll leave you with list generation is that a lead is not a list. And what I mean by that is that we have to get out of the mindset that we got to go build a list, right? Get in the mindset that you have to find problems. And that's really what it is. That's what a lead is a problem. Now, I know at the end of the day, you're pulling out a list in our system, but let me give you a perfect example of what I mean by lead is not a list. So I'm going to use the same area, Yahavy's area, right? And I assume investors like Yahavy are going to the county or going into PropStream and looking for any of these categories that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work around that, right? So I'm going to go into the filter and I'm going to block everything that Yahavy would pull, right? So if Yahavy pulls vacant properties, I'm going to look for occupied properties. Now, if Yahavy pulls failed listings, I'm going to pull off-market listings, right? Nothing that failed, just anything that's not on market. Now, they might pull pre-foreclosures, so I'm going to make sure I'm not in the pre-foreclosure category. They're going to pull liens and divorces and bankruptcies, so I'm not going to pull that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to block those records from my results. And then they also are going to pull the free and clear properties and the cash buyers from 10, 15 years ago and market to them. So I'm going to block those as well, including the private notes that people have, right? And so now what is the problem? If I just block out all the lists that people go and find deals on, well, where am I going to find the lead now? Well, guess what, guys? Again, a lead is not a list. A lead is a problem. So let's start thinking of issues that have now popped up because of the situation that we're in globally. There are 6 million people right now that have filed for unemployment, right? It is very unfortunate, and you guys are here to solve that problem. But when 6 million people file for unemployment, the reality is of the 6 million people, we have homeowners, we have landlords, we also have tenants. So here's a problem I've heard about. Tenants are losing their jobs and are not able to pay rent. So landlords are affected by that. So here's what I'm going to look for. I'm looking for a non-owner occupied property, a landlord property that is occupied by a tenant, as you can see here. And the landlord is an individual, not a corporation. It's just a person. Maybe he or she's been doing it for 7 years or more. And here's the pain point. There is an existing mortgage on that property as of today. So there are 314 people in this city right now that are renting out their property to a tenant. And there's a mortgage on that property. Like, let's look at this Linda one, for example, right? Manuel lives in New York, Hobo Junction. Manuel has a mortgage on this property of $614 a month. Now, property is occupied by someone. So here's a property in one city, owner lives in a different city, but it's occupied. So it's being cash flowed, right? And so, and he's trying to sell it. You can see it's active. So not only is he being cash if someone's in there, but he's also listing the property for sale. Now, because of COVID-19, maybe people aren't wanting to buy right now. Or maybe the tenants that are in the house may have been part of the 6 million that have lost their job and they're not able to pay the rent. Now, what can't Manuel do right now? Evictions are frowned upon. Foreclosures, courts are closed. You can't do that either, right? So Manuel went from cash flowing to now having to pick up the mortgage if the tenant's not paying it anymore. That is the pain point. And Manuel's not in any of these categories, right? And so, guys, that's what I wanted to show you. What I was able to do was build a problem, go into PropStream and say, hey, non-owner occupied people, here's one that lives in New Jersey, currently has a tenant, and this property has a $2,100 mortgage that needs to be paid every month. So if that tenant lost their job, cash flow owners now need to pick that up. And again, if they live in a different property, check this out, 7 Crown View Court. Let me open up PropStream and search that property. Oh, they dodged a bullet. No, they didn't. It's also financed. See, so the owner who owns this property and the other property have 2 mortgages. They have a mortgage on the rental property and a mortgage on their existing property. So if the tenant stops paying this property, or the rent on this property, now the owners have to pick up the mortgage on their property that they're living in, the owner occupied property, and the non-owner occupied property, just like that. So guys, that is a problem. And I identified 314 of them that may need some assistance with their tenants. So again, check it off, add to list, export, skip trace, or campaign, and we call it a day. So Yahavy, thanks for letting me kind of break it down as simple as possible.
I'm looking like this. I'm sorry, Burton, but I'm going to give all those people a call. I was taking notes. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to give them a call. Don't worry, Burton.
And that's what we do extremely well. I mean, 15 years of data collection. We don't buy it from just one provider. We buy from multiple sources. We buy obviously we buy the top dollar data sets, right? Like if every provider had mortgage records, right? Out of all the providers, there's just that one provider that just has the best mortgage data. And that's what we do. We shop. We literally will buy them all to identify who has the best data. And that's what we've done for 15 years. For the last 7 years, I've taken upon myself to educate our users to effectively approach it. And what I just showed you guys again was just 7 years of how I've been able to break down how you should effectively approach PropStream. There is no perfect list. The whole motivation chart was because so many people would call in and say, hey, what's the best list? What's this? What's that? Now, over the years, I would talk to all sorts of investors, and everybody has different types of leads. And that's really why, at the end of the day, a lead is a problem. Now, granted, some strategies require certain rules. If you're wholesaling, equity, off market, no equity, no assignment fee. If it's on market, you can't contract it, right? So certain things have rules, but I will say this, educate yourself, get with Yahavy, you know what I mean? And learn as much as you can, because if you only know wholesaling, if you come across a property with little or no equity, it's not going to work for you. But if you know creative seller financing, it's a gold mine, right? So the more you know, the more it opens up for you in our system. And that's why we don't gear our system to only caretake to one audience. So again, I can't emphasize enough, guys, that the best leads come from you, because it's a matter of what you know and what you're capable of solving, right? Whether it's high equity, low equity, maybe even negative equity. I'll leave that up to you guys. So I wanted to show you guys at the end of the day that our system has a very elaborate filtering system that will let you essentially sit back and say, hey, should I look for someone that has 3 mortgages on their property? Yeah, let's do that. And you can go in our filter and look for someone that has 3 mortgages on their property. And so I hope you guys understand what I'm sharing with you guys. If not, again, we have a help group. We have our Facebook group. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can get with Yahavy. He'll get with me, and we can go from there.
Burton, this was a really, really good informative video. I just want to jump in real quick. That campaign, brand spanking new. Didn't know about it till you showed me it. So again, guys, this video is extremely informative. Like, watch this video again and again. Burton drops so much gems. As you see, I'm taking notes. I won't put so much on the wall, but again, be a student to the game. You know, like he said, you risk more by not knowing. So the more you know, the better you're going to be. And the more you know about your market, the more successful you'll be in the business. So again, study, take your time, be patient. It took me, a long time to really understand what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. So again, reference this video, join their Facebook group, reach out for help if you need some support. Burton's right here. I'm here. That's it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for investing in the St. Clair Sales, the hustler state of mind, coaching and consulting by me, Yahavy David St. Clair. St. Clair Sales is a webinar where I'm teaching you guys my sales techniques and tricks that I've used since the age of 14. And I've built St. Clair Sales through my own sales experience. I went from the streets of Times Square, New York City, from selling comedy tickets for 7 years in rainstorms and blizzards. My sales skills had given me the confidence through speaking, and combining my sales skills with speaking has made me the speaker I am today. So with St. Clair Speaks one-on-one virtual coaching, I provide a support system. Check-in progress reports. Are we regressing or are we progressing? What are our current business blind spots? When was the last time we made our recent business adjustment? Let's schedule our next check-in call. Introduction to St. Clair Speaks. This success blueprint was created through my own experience of pursuing something much larger than me. This is not going to be like any course that you've experienced in the past. I got where I am today because of the mindset it took for me to get off the streets, from selling comedy tickets in Times Square, New York City for 7 years, to speaking on stages and getting paid. With strong faith and confidence, all things are possible. And don't forget the action, because FCA, faith, confidence, action, this is the rule that I apply. Do you have more fear than faith? With confidence and conviction, all things are possible. But what's action without faith? So let's just jump back to question number 1. Do you have more fear than faith? FCA must be applied every day when it comes to sales, business, and just life. You need faith, you need confidence, and you need to take action. How do you expect to be successful with sales if you don't have faith in what you're selling, you don't have faith in what you're doing, you don't have confidence in what you're doing, you don't feel confident about the person that you're talking to, and you're not taking action, so none of this is happening? FCA. Mindset. Let's get one thing clear. When it comes down to sales, you either got it or you don't. The true art of selling is not selling anything at all, but simply just being yourself. I don't sell anything. I just sell personality. In fact, it's my personality which makes me successful. Your attitude can open a business relationship and close them as well. Learn to get out of your head. Be yourself. Your personality could close a $50 deal or a $500,000 deal. It's all about your mindset. Word choice. When it comes down to word choice, you must be very cautious of what you say in the process of making a deal. You never want to sound unsure of what you're speaking of. It's better to say I recommend rather than I think. Word choice is extremely powerful. I think you should train with me twice a week because, rather than I recommend you train with me 4 times a week because studies show My clients have a higher success rate with getting results because they work with me 4 times a week rather than. Do you hear the comparison? One of the 48 laws of power is the less you say, the more powerful you appear. Lead generating. Lead generating is hustling 101. So are you hustling? How do you filter your current leads? Cold, warm, hot? Do you have a follow-up system? How do you create business right now? How do you create business for yourself? Through social media? Through outreach? What is your strongest social media platform? Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn? What indicates a cold or a hot lead? Body language. Body language is crucial for in-person sales because no one likes the feeling of being sold anything. Body language can expose what you're trying to hide behind. Either stand up tall with confidence and conviction or don't show up at all. Body language can make or break your deal because when it comes down to sales, I can see through bullshit real quick when it comes to body language. So don't try to bullshit me and sell me some garbage that I don't need because your body language is exposing you. So body language can actually help you execute on the deal that you're presenting, the product, the service. Correct your body language, correct your verbiage and your word choice. Your tone of voice. When it comes down to tone of voice, it could help or it could hurt. But while presenting, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself as you present. While speaking, do you sound approachable? Do you sound passive aggressive? Your tone of voice is everything. Keep your tone. Elevator pitch. Creating an elevator pitch helps you consistently hear yourself. Introducing yourself and what you do to others and through repetition, you must master your elevator pitch. It is your representation of who you are. Creating your elevator pitch helps establish who you are as a brand, as a business, as well as a representation as who you are. The more you pitch your elevator pitch, the more confident you sound when you pitch in front of people. 9 times out of 10, in some cases, your elevator pitch does the job for you. Your elevator pitch, if mastered correctly, can close the deal before you even present it. Because you said, hey, my name's Yahavy David St. Clair. I'm a visionary motivational speaker and author. I speak about the power of your subconscious mind and turning my trauma into triumph through my art of storytelling. Your elevator pitch must be something that you have memorized, something that you say with confidence, something that must be true, something that is you. Your elevator pitch is you on a plate. Serve it. Let them eat. Because when they eat, that's when you eat. Your elevator pitch is you on a plate. Establishing referrals. Referrals are great for business and building community. It doesn't hurt to ask a client or a former customer for a referral, especially if you impacted their life in a positive way. This is a great way to get a client testimonial to use for a reference point or maybe offer something at a discount rate for referring someone to your business. Establishing referrals is establishing rapport. So you must consistently find ways to establish referrals. A customer relationship manager. By creating a CRM, you in fact help your business in the long run. By being organized, by being a well-organized entrepreneur, you could actually create a CRM system through HubSpot or Pipedrive where you put all of your previous customers in one database. You send them a blast email, let them know like, hey, I'm hosting a potential networking event in the near future. You should come out. I'm going to be showcasing my new services and products. And for attending, you get a huge discount rate if you bring someone else. By creating a CRM, you could actually create other services and products and get everyone in the room at the same time. This is hustling 101, the hustler state of mind service. You will be able to follow up with your customers through a reoccurring rapport system that you established just by creating a better oiled machine. For example, say you have a customer set to go through a recurring service on the 10th. You have that relationship with that customer. You have that conversation. Say, hey,
Let's move your bill date to, say, the 30th or the 1st. By establishing that rapport, that customer is going to stay with you in the long run because you have a reoccurring service that you completely own. Overcoming objections. Let's face it, overcoming objections can be tough. It can make or break your deal as well. Some people don't know how to even overcome objections. This is where their sales end. What is the right question when faced with objection? Are you confident enough to talk your way out of it? Ask yourself, how does this bring value to the person that I'm selling this to? Overcoming objections. It takes you thinking of the objection before they bring the objection to you. So here's a little tip. When it comes to overcoming objections, think of the objection before they present it to you. This way, when they present the problem, you have the solution. So if there's a problem and you have a solution, well, guess what? You have no problem because you have a solution. Overcoming objections means thinking for you and your consumer. St. Clair Sales. Evaluate your customer through active listening, aka ear hustling. Listen to what they're saying. Identify all pain points. Sell them what they care about and give them what they need. Honesty. Honesty is the key. Being 100% truthful to yourself and to your consumer. You want to establish a real relationship with your consumer to the point where they could trust you, and that begins with honesty. No one will come back to you if they feel that you weren't being truthful and you just wanted their money. Humility over everything. This is larger than money. Don't let your own business rob you out of the opportunity. Just be honest. I always say energy is contagious. Some people can sense energy very well and spot manipulation techniques through energy. You get what you give. Closing. The best thing about closing is the close. When it comes down to closing, you should feel confident with conviction that you've made the right recommendations for your client or your consumer. This goes back to the FCA rule: faith, confidence, action. Bring up your services or products. Remind them again how this brings value. Start high and work your way down. Give yourself room for error. No one is perfect. If you make a mistake, don't make it easy. You'll give off that energy in your close. Ask yourself, am I providing the right services, the right product? Am I doing the right thing? Can I ask for a referral afterwards? Will this person purchase from me again? Am I setting this person up on reoccurring? Did I mention reoccurring? Your close is closing future sales for you. This close is not just one person. This close is millions of people. If you look at each close, if you think of the consumer, your buyer, and if you think of yourself, the seller, think of it like this. Am I adding value? And why should I buy? And when you solve the problem of the close in your head, once you realize that you've given this everything that you have, you've hit every talking point. You've come in here with FCA. If they don't have it, they just don't have it. But if you offered every single service product, then that's a confident close because you gave it everything that you have. You're not going to get a home run every time you're at bat, but every time you swing, you're going to swing. I'd rather swing and go out swinging than not step up to the base at all and swing. The best thing about closing is closing with action and taking action and having strong faith. So when it comes to closing, you must apply the FCA, faith, confidence, action. And if you give it everything you have, it will give you everything in return. And I want to thank you in closing for taking your time, investing into the St. Clair Sales webinar. Do not forget to visit StClairSpeaks.com where you can order your copy of my first book, Sweats to Suits, at StClairSpeaks.com. This is Yahavy David St. Clair saying, thank you for being yourself. Thank you for believing in yourself. Thank you for seeing something much larger in yourself. Thank you for investing in yourself and investing into St. Clair Sales. Your ideas create ideas for you. And by creating this webinar, has created so many more ideas. So never stop thinking, never stop dreaming, never stop selling. StClairSpeaks.com.